So maybe what I'll do, and with the permission of my panel here, what I'll do is maybe ask 2 questions to the audience here. This is just my way of making sure all of you are not thinking of the paneer butter masala outside, but rather focusing on the panel discussion here. So maybe one question to all of you. Did any one of you not use AI, chat GPT, any of that just from this morning to now? Is there anyone in the room? There is one brave person who's raised their hand also. But maybe a second question. How many of you know which is the world's largest large language model? Anyone? By raise of hand, you can tell me. World's largest LLM. Okay, so I guess I'm assuming that all of you know the answer but do not want to answer. Just for all of you, it is Kimi K3. So maybe I'll get started with the panel discussion here. And essentially, I think the topic given to all of us is scaling AI and scaling beyond what is being right now in a pilot or a POC stage. And if you look at some of the statistics, and this is from a Deloitte survey that was done beginning of this year, that only 1 in 10 POCs or pilots that are conducted in AI, agentic, generative AI, all of that put together, essentially only 1 out of 10 actually land up into production. So maybe, those are some of the things that we will discuss on this panel today, that what does scaling or what does scale look like when we say, and each of the departments, I think I'm quite honored to sort of have a very diverse panel here, and each one of them would be adopting AI in their own departments and ministries that you're working in. So those perspectives will be important. So maybe the first thing that I would want to get started is to just hear the panel's perspective on what does scale look like in your department, right? Are there examples that already exist where you've been able to scale certain things which are use cases on AI beyond a pilot or a POC, and it has really benefited? Maybe some perspectives one by one from the panel will be appreciated. And because I have a set of long list of questions, I'll appreciate if all of you maybe take a minute or so. That will be important for us to make sure we cover everything. Yeah. So starting with you.
So, very good afternoon to all of you. The scale in next few years, what we find is, what is true for all the government sector and also sector-specific things. I am representing health sector here from Karnataka. So I look at it that the AI in next few years would be able to ease the life of both citizen as a service seeker as well as the doctors and the healthcare workers who are present in the government systems for health care delivery. So their both life will be made easy. Now, of course, the use cases and what are already scaled up, that would be coming up subsequently. But there are, sector-specific documents now present. There was a WHO and Government of India centered, but there was one seminar where AI in health sector. So the document which mentions around 20 to 25 technologies which can be scaled up and which are already being proven and are being used in different parts of the country and to certain extent from other countries also. There are examples of cervical cancer detection from Kenya and other such cases. So those are ready things to start working on scaling up AI in various sectors. Such documents which are an outcome of these kind of deliberations, they are already available, and if we start adopting, because those technologies are proven and there are use cases. So that is what will lead to the AI scale growth.
Hi everyone. I'm a strong votary of use of AI in the government. I'll make 3 points quickly. The march of AI is inexorable and its adoption inevitable. It is not a question of if, it is not even a question of when anymore. It's a question of AI being already here, and we in the government becoming capable very fast in its adoption and scaling at a very, very fast pace, hitherto unknown to us. And regarding the government is its own animal. Its pace is stolid, it has its own inertia, it is encumbered by budget constraints, status quo, resistance to change, patterns of doing things. Identifying all of these areas, in Odisha, especially in Women and Child Development Department, we have gone all guns blazing in adoption of AI. And through my experience of 6 months I've been here in this department, the biggest use case that we have been able to adopt so far is the voice. So if I get the chance after this opening statement, I'll be able to give you many more examples of how we are adopting AI and moving forward with it. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Sudeepta, and thank you for letting us know what is there in the menu, actually. And that is, yeah, but I hope that is going to be correct, paneer butter masala, as you rightly said. So, scaling is actually not a problem for a state like Uttar Pradesh. We recently have displayed it in Mahakumbh 2025, where more than 2,700 AI-enabled cameras were there. They were installed, and we also could manage where the pressure points could be, where the congestion points could be. It's not a problem actually scaling when you have such a large number of population. The thing is that when you start with a pilot, you'd go with it in a controlled atmosphere. There are certain use cases for which you have direct monitoring, and then you can come on conclusions. But thing is that when you go for spreading it across the state at a larger level, the procurement may be a problem. And then for other departments who are all having and maintaining their data sets in their own silos, so integrating all of them and then making a common use case for them, that could be a problem. Like we all know that our PAN card is being made by Income Tax Department, voter ID card is made by Election Commission of India, Aadhaar is made by UIDI, and so many other. And they all are having their sovereign data sets, and those data sets, they are not talking to each other. So as a person, if I have to avail some service, I have to visit different websites. So there is not a concept of data lake kind of thing from where I can fetch my data whenever it is required from whatever website, from whatever sectors it is there. So central KYC registry is there, and it is for limited purposes. But how to go hyperscale for a project, for a scheme, for a state like Uttar Pradesh, where there are so many departments having their own data sets, so that could be a problem in scaling. Although once we roll it out, the numbers, they themselves tell the whole story, so it is not a problem. Thing is that how we are going to make an ecosystem where the data sets are talking to each other. So the first thing that goes into the mind of every department, that the procedure which they have adopted for the collection of their data, the place where they are hosting their data, the language in which they have prepared their data, there should be a standard. So at the Government of India level also, they are now talking about this thing, that in what way and in what manner data sets are to be prepared so that they can be interoperable. So that is going to be the key in the future, because until and unless data sets are not talking to each other, building any model, any AI model probably will not work.
Uh, Good afternoon. I am representing the Forest Department in Telangana. Earlier also, we have had a leap in adopting IT technology. In 2006, there were many awards which upscaling or adopting have taken place here. Now, it's another turning phase with use of AI, wherein now we are again, scaling up is one of the main agenda we are taking up. With use of other private companies or also within the department, we are trying to scale it up. And recently, we are also, especially in the geomatics, we have had a good set of things done earlier. Now with help of NRSA, we'll be now adopting machine learning to mainly focus on the encroachment issues, or also public service delivery, ease of doing business, we have been doing better, and I think scaling up would not be an issue in Telangana.
Good afternoon, one and all. I am also representing a side of forest department here. We have had previous conclaves on the similar issues. I still remember last time. I just want to share with you that we had, I think, significant progress is made in the forestry sector of Telangana. The first one we are thinking was having an AI grant challenge done through our IT department few years back, where we have a huge repository of camera trap data. Majorly, we are talking about tiger reserves and wildlife areas where we have flooded with lakhs of images of wildlife, and it was humanly impossible for us to basically scroll through that and make a meaningful outcome of it. And later we replaced that with a model developed by one of the startup called Think Evolve from Pune. So we've got a model where the model could scan through all these images and give us a tangible output. We need not go through 1 lakh images to find how many of them are tiger, how many of them are leopard, and also we are talking about unique number of tigers. So instead of employing 10 people and then still making a mistake, I think we were able to evolve. This was 2 years back. In the last conclave, we had furthered an idea where we wanted to actually help the traditional forest personnel in their patrolling and surveillance duties. Like majorly we are talking about EI. Prior to the surveillance era, we had huge mounted cameras which are basically surveilling an area around 50 to 70 square kilometers, but they were not fitted with AI, and majority of us had to have this control room system where we sit and do all the work. Now I'm happy to tell you that in Amrabad Tiger Reserve, we had a project conceptualized, and now it has been awarded also to a vendor who will be executing this EI concept using AI in probably one of the remotest parts of the place where there is no data network. When we talk about AI, I think majority of the other sectors and departments are very blessed with lot of data, bandwidth connectivity. But when we speak about forests, generally majority of the AI we use to solve service problems in government. And as such, if you see in forestry sectors, it is not about service issue. It is majorly about those invisible people who cannot ask you what to do. So we have a problem statement. We need help in our traditional systems to improve our efficiency. That is where we are using it majorly. Now, I'm not in capacity of Tiger Reserve now. Now I'm working in HMD as a Director Urban Forestry. There are multiple use cases, but I think nothing has gone off huge scale yet. One of the biggest issue we have right now is, as HMDS jurisdiction is growing on, the designing, basic landscape design of a place, how to do it. We just have two landscape architects who basically have to go through the entire place, give us a plan. And that is causing a lot of delays. What we have already seen is the existing landscape architects using AI in their own means. But I think having a model which is suitable to our means, not just a general AI model. I think there are multiple use cases in HMD urban forestry, including places, identifying places, decision making, for where we are probably looking at scaling right now, including citizen services many times, because majority of the times we react to what problems we have in the park, not judge anything using AI. Hopefully by next conclave we'll be able to solve these problem statements. Thank you.
So Sunil, from your vantage point, maybe just changing the question a little bit, right? That you must have seen many such departments from the role that you play. Are there examples that you would want to share?
Yeah, so first of all, I'll take more than a minute. So please keep the food warm. So thank you, iLodge, for having such a knowledgeable panelist, list of dignitaries here, and a lovely audience who's been listening so very patiently and being involved in all of this. In fact, the last panel was directly hitting all of that we do for government and builders and users, right? Whether it is, they were talking about large LLMs to be built in India, talking about sovereignty, how is the government participating in all of them, and how the service providers are supposed to be part of that. So we directly are involved and a party to all of that was discussed in the last panel. And then somehow it feels like, why can't I from YOTA can be part of all the discussions that is happening. So that is the feeling that comes out. So when we talk about AI scale, the question that you asked, so I think all the government organizations today have an AI story to tell. Okay? Whether it is a chatbot initiative, whether it is a document digitization project, or a predictive analysis, or a video analytics. But all of these use cases are very specific and isolated for a specific department, for a specific ministry, right? For us, I think for me it would be when we talk about what is AI scale there, can we have those pilots or the use cases as we call them to be built into a platform so that they are available on a shared AI platform, becomes a blueprint for other departments to consume. Of course, the data security and interoperability is one question that has to be addressed when different departments use that. So which makes these pilots or these successful use cases available for all the departments. So that is when the AI would scale. This is available to all departments. The AI is in everyday functioning of the government, right? So that is when we say AI would be scaling to that extent. So when we engage with Government of India with initiatives like MIT's NIC Meghraj 2.0 or India AI mission, where we are supporting the users, whether it is government or the innovators via our Shakti Cloud, which is the AI factory, or to STPI community, their startups and innovators, that is exactly what we are giving to them. So the government and the organizations are no longer worried about the technology problems that they face every day. They don't have to build those isolated platforms at their end. What we give them is a shared AI platform to be used, a dedicated pod within the shared AI platform to be used by multiple departments at scale. So I think from that perspective, when this happens, then we'll say the AI is now scaling to that extent.
Lovely. Maybe I'll come to you, sir. We were on the topic of, because you joined in late, I thought I'll give you the context. We were talking about what does scale really look like in your specific department.
I differ a bit on the issue of scaling of AI when it comes to government, whether we are from vision to execution or we really need to scale it. I am of the opinion that first, the problems are identified in government. Most of the time the problems are identified. It is just looking at the right kind of solution. That's the first problem. Scaling comes later. So for example, in my state, there was an issue that there are about 2 lakh people who are availing the benefit of old age pension. So how many of them are the real beneficiaries? How many of them are actually dead person availing the benefit of old age pension? So one department has the data, other department does not have the data. So eventually when some kind of data analytics was done, it was revealed that 11,000 people who are actually dead are taking the benefit. So that's one point. So first, the issue is finding the real technology that helps you do this. If this has to be done manually, it will take years and years altogether. And these 11,000 people that I'm talking about, they must have been in their 70s or 80s. If they retire at the age of 58, that means they were taking the benefit for last a decade and a half, and nobody identified them. So that's the one issue. So the first is finding the right solution to the problem. Then comes the issue of scaling. And in governments, which have historically seen the slow cycle of innovation and adoption. Second, where there is very less literacy about AI. And third, the workforce remains largely uneducated and untrained about AI. I am of the opinion, with due regards to what other speakers have said and what their experiences are, that the issue of scaling will come later unless you address these 3 issues, and then the issues of the interoperability of the data sets, the data silos that we are working in. Unless these issues are addressed, I think scaling then comes later.
Lovely. I think maybe the next theme I thought we could speak about is essentially the blockers when it comes to scaling of AI, right? And at least from my vantage point, where we sit as consultants, as implementers for some of these solutions, I think there are a number of those when it comes to integrations and looking at the right use cases. What is the right use case to adopt, and not really going behind a shiny object, right? Today you have generative AI, it could be something else tomorrow. So there are many such blockers that we have seen. So maybe if each one of you can share that from your perspective, what are the real blockers that you are seeing, in terms of scaling AI within your own, area.
I've already listed where I think we have to begin with, but there are absolute cases. For example, the cases of triaging medical emergencies. That's a very, very well-known case world over. There is already case of intelligent traffic management system, which states have implemented. I think it's almost 2 decades now. Small countries like South Korea have had this kind of a system since I think 2010. Forget about the Western Europe and the absolute West of the world, which have done this for years and years altogether. Then there are cases of urgency of the helplines, where people call on the helpline and you have to decide how do you decide the priority. These things I think AI can very well do. There are n number of cases in the country where AI has really helped in tracking criminals. Just one case that happened in Himachal, I think about 5-6 months back. 5-6 months back, few people came over to the house of MLA while Holi celebration was going on, and few bullets were fired. Thankfully, the MLA was not hit by any bullet, and then there was a, because everyone was in color, so it was very difficult to identify who were the assailants, where did they come from. So then there was the role of AI, how do you identify those people, and then eventually started the role of ANPR cameras, which most of the traffic management system uses. And then eventually they had to identify how many vehicles were there which crossed this toll n number of times, unusual number of times actually. So they could identify about 180 vehicles, which, and this was done automatically. Algorithm is there, you have the data, you sort and filter the data, and eventually there is a set point available. So these 180 vehicles have crossed this toll unusual number of times. How many are the vehicles which had more than one person in the vehicle? Camera identified that also. They came down to something like 75. How many vehicles were not Himachal vehicles? The number came down to 18. How many were not 2 vehicles? The number came down to 6. How many of these 6 vehicles patrolled during night, came during day also? Number came down to 3. Identify the owner. So they said 2 of the owners are Himachali, 1 is non-Himachali. Okay, call all 3 of them. Where is the vehicle right now? Third person said the vehicle which was not owned by Himachali, he said my vehicle has been sold about a week back. He said grab this fellow, pick him up and bring him to police station. Immediately case solved. So he said this FIR was only registered because this vehicle was to be used in this kind of a crime, and eventually he said who were the buyers. So the buyers came, the fellows came, and eventually case tracked. Absolute case of artificial intelligence. Had this task been given to anyone who was sitting on the toll or any policeman who was there on the Naka, anyone else, I don't think this case would have been solved ever. So in my view, when it comes to artificial intelligence, unless one, as I said in the beginning in my opening remarks, one, unless you have the problem identified, second, the right kind of solution from the problem. Yesterday I was speaking to one of the exhibitors here. He was talking about our technology. He's sitting right there in the front. He said, we have introduced some kind of a system, the address system in the conference hall or the microphones, where you just do not have any kind of speaker on the table, and there is a mic which is on the roof or in the ceiling, and the moment you start speaking, it will automatically identify that it's a human voice which is speaking, and the voice will get transmitted to the entire hall. If it's a different kind of a sound, be it rubbing of a paper on the table, be it clapping or anything else, it will not identify the sound and it will not be transmitted. So wonderful thing, the table will not look cluttered, it will be absolutely clean, you can speak from anywhere. This is one case of artificial intelligence. So I think in the government setups, though we have been trying to use AI in tasks, whereas I believe AI should be used in roles. So there has to be a paradigm shift from tasks to roles. That is one. Then second is the right kind of technology. Just one example which I gave. I'm sure there are a number of exhibitors here who must have developed innovative technologies which are much beyond than human thinking. That's the second part. And that's the second part. And then third part and most important is that the state have to have the capacity and the people trained to have that kind of technology implemented. Unless you have these 3 things, I think these conferences will perhaps keep taking place in the country and we'll just be talking about AI implementation.
No, lovely. I think when you said the whole story, I was reminded of a Netflix cybercrime, the series that would have been. But just focusing on, I think you mentioned skilling definitely is one of them. Identifying the right use case is definitely one of them. Going after the right one to make sure the impact sort of shows. So maybe if your perspective on where the scaling is not happening, some of those examples and maybe around.
So the major blockers to the scaling of AI from whatever experience I have in the sector is, one thing which is partially covered by my co-panelist here also, the validation part. Now you have a number of people and entities pitching on AI solutions, but are they actually what they are claiming to be, is it true or not? So that kind of inputs, I think there is a whole opportunity for entrepreneurs in that sector also to validate. not only the technology part, but also usability to that specific cases. So that is one part where we need to focus if we want to scale. The second is again related to, one is the skill set of the people and second is the mindset. So we have seen it over the years. I mean, my earlier boss, Mr. Rajiv Chawla, when I was in e-governance department, Karnataka, used to say that he heard somewhere that India is the graveyard of all these e-governance projects. The specific reason is mindset. So we have, a government setup where there are set of officers and workers who think that anything which is interfering with their powers or decision making is essentially bad and should not be. So that mindset need to change. There we need to focus. That is true for all e-governance initiatives and especially for AI, because here one day, the whole decision-making power would be shifted. Actually, one fine day, there would be algorithms, and they are already doing it, who are deciding who is eligible and who is not. So this mindset needs to change. This is the second focus. The third, of course, is about the cost and acquisition of the AI technology. Now, the government has its own constraints. We need to work, we need to prioritize our needs. So now, in the health sector, my first thing is to provide medicine, let us say. Then comes the AI part. So when resource optimization is concerned, so the AI technology has to be available at the right price to the people. That is one part. And then the whole discovery of vendors or discovery of services, that is again a major thing, because still, even though quality-based biddings are there, there is a provision, but still we as in the government setup, we fear to take up that route. We generally go by the L1 route. So these are the conversations which need to happen before AI can be scaled.
Very valid points, and I must reiterate some of them. But before that, I'd like to reiterate that adoption and scaling is inevitable. It will be a bell curve. Early adopters who will learn and fail. Then the bulk of the people who will follow and adopt, because it is, again, inevitable. And the laggards who will be left behind, and they'll fall off the race. The foremost, because we are adopting AI in the social sector, which is the most complicated part. And I happen to be a fellow panelist with Mighty Secretary Krishnan sir in ISP Mohali for AI for Viksit Bharat. So I'll be speaking about some of the points he did and add some of my points. My point as an adopter in the social sector, number one foremost problem, which sir has already said, is the fidelity of data, the truthfulness of data. I deal with a device or a software called as Portion Tracker. We generate around 40 million data points of our beneficiaries, which are 35 lakh plus, on a daily basis. So those 40 million data points, I cannot say as a secretary with any kind of firmness that they are truthful. So cleaning up that data so that we can rely on it, because if we train our models on faulty data, we are setting ourselves for an industrial scale failure. It will not be an AI engine. It will be a devastating outcome of dabbling in technology, which is based on untruth rather than truth. Number two would be, like I said, and like sir said, adopting his point, the procurement pipelines. Before AI, there was technology, there was software, and all of us have purchased software. So you must know the spectrum of cost. Some of us have purchased the software at, say, in hundreds of thousands. Others have purchase those in millions of dollars. Similar software, similar delivery, because there is a lot of information asymmetry, especially with the officers who do not know technology, and majority of us are like that. So softwares can be sold to us, claiming so many things, which can be done very easily by a cheaper software as well. Similar is the case with AI, and like sir said, that government people are bound to go by procurement rules, which optimize cost. So we have to go for L1. Government governments do not allow for increase in, efficiencies, optimizing efficiencies in procurement. That needs to change. And with AI, like our moderator said, majority of the cases fail rather than succeed. So do the government people or the bureaucrats have any leverage to fail in procurement, which is a programmed or planned failure? We do not. So when we adopt AI, the guidelines, the rules, the frameworks of governance and purchase and procurement and leverage to fail need to be incorporated upfront before we even start dabbling in AI. And AI, different people are doing different things. Now, voice is available on GEM portal through competition. I'm very glad about it because we are going to purchase for more than 1 crore beneficiaries. I run the flagship scheme for women, DBT scheme, largest DBT scheme called as Subhadra. And we are using voice to reach out to all of these women, not only to take feedback on the delivery of services, we are also assessing their needs so that the skilling supply can match the needs. So that is where we are using. And of course, as an officer, I know that first I need to unburden my officers from mundaneness of their chores day to day. So we are devising a small LLM for our department, which will be locally hosted, sovereign, safe. And my officers do not have to write, draft letters, summarize documents, write counters to affidavits and counters to, legal cases, etc., etc. AI will be doing it. But then again, the government guidelines say there has to be a human who has thought before putting a signature on any kind of government paper. So how are we going to merge these two? Because with the advent of agentic AI, all of these things are going to be automated. So AI is going to select the beneficiaries, create the records, create the entitlement, disburse the entitlement, give the report. So where does the human intervention come in? And how do we convince the courts that what we have done, and how do we get the trust of the beneficiaries that a machine is doing what we were supposed to do, and we need to be ready to defend ourselves in the court by bringing in such kind of guidelines and rules. So these are some of my thoughts. The list is long because, like I said, we are doing AI day in and day out and confronting all of these problems and solving also one after the other.
I love that, confronting and solving. That is how we progress.
So we have been talking about blockers, right? So is budget is a blocker? No. Policy is a blocker? No. Political will or administrative skills are blocker? No. So I think this departmental coordination mechanism could be one. Let me cite an example. Suppose in a remote village, and suddenly there is a spurt in the number of patients who are sick of diarrhea or something like that. The reason could be because of polluted underground water. So the data collected by the Department of Health, whether that data can be shared with the department who is taking care of the underground water mechanism or not. That can be a common use case, as Sir rightly said, that we have to identify the use cases that also has to be based on the two kind of philosophies, external approach and internal approach. There are departments who are providing citizen-centric services and they have different kind of data sets, and on those data sets they have to take decisions. They have to go for the selection of the beneficiaries and all. Then there is an internal use case in which, based on that data, the government would like to draft policies and take decisions. So it is a two-way approach. So interdepartmental coordination, and then what we are feeling right now in a state like UP, maybe skilled workforce, infrastructure development. We all might have noticed that since last few months, the prices of cell phone and laptop, they have gone up because of the supply chain issues. When we have been talking to the vendors, they say that all the supplies, they are going the GPUs and the data centers and everywhere. In UP itself, we are going to purchase 2.5 million tablets that are going to be distributed among the children who just have passed their +2. But the prices in comparison to last year, now they have escalated up to 35 to 40%. So we can only adjust 15 to 70% as per dollar and Indian rupee index. But rest of the thing, it is being consumed by the price escalation in the processors. So whether do we have that enough infrastructure? Because everything else in AI stack will be developed on only that. The first infrastructure. And another issue which is very important is that the trust issue. AI largely used in BFSI sector, I also have faced this problem. I have been facing this problem with my bank since last 1 month. They said that they have raised the issue and it's been handled by some back-end operation center sitting somewhere in Chennai or somewhere. So my branch manager is not in a position to help me directly. But I have given my money to my branch manager. I know him personally. I recognize his face. So in this case of AI or the digital governance or the digital transformation, who is there behind the screen taking care of my problems? So this trust issue is supposed to be addressed in a very gentle and a very delicate manner. And that's how we will be able to create the ecosystem for the adaptability of the citizens. Actually, these are the citizens for whom we are doing all this exercise at the end of the day, and identifying measurable outcomes of these policies. So I would take it that an AI program is becoming successful only when there are measurable changes in the government processes. If the time taken in delivery of a service, it is coming down. If the business processes are more mechanical instead of giving you chance for making some discretionary decisions. So objectivity, neutrality, availability of all the times, and scalability. So these are the issues which are to be addressed. And as far as the blockers are concerned, there might be few for now, right, maybe, but all of them will be taken care of in the due course of time. But thing is that with what mindset we would like to approach in the future.
I think panelists have covered much of the issues. With my view, I feel like major blockade would be the infrastructure, especially in government things. Infrastructure in terms of procurement or replacing the old one. Because suddenly we cannot totally replace all the machines or required items. And end-to-end the infrastructure availability, especially internet. Now, as a Telangana is concerned, we have T-Fiber where last mile connectivity is there. But in terms of machines, there is a concern. And next thing would be the skilled people. Because to adopt AI, even in, I think, IT sector, many people were shunted because they were not so much well-versed with, or they were not coming to that. So here also the issue is like many of the staff, which I would see are mid-age to beyond 35. So who will be slow in adopting technologies or taking care? So that will be another blockade which I see. But there are plus points also, like we have to strengthen the IT department. Like we have had solutions from MeSeva itself, like ticketing platform used to depend on the other agency like CGG, Center for Good Governance. But MeSeva came up with free of cost solutions. We were paying something, but IT department came up with a very easy solution, user-friendly. Now it is even WhatsApp based, and each and every park in Telangana, be it Forest Park or HMDA Park, any park, the ticketing can be is a solution from them. So strengthening one of the department, identifying solutions from each department, coordinating and delivering, because everything cannot be purchased from each department. And also one more thing would be like encouraging startups, because well-established companies would quote more. Startups would be like coming forth with very least cost effective technologies. So it should be a balanced thing where we should be taking up how to adopt or how to overcome these blockages. Thank you.
I think majority of the points have been covered, but there is one specific point, because in the last two models which we tried to put in the department, the biggest issue I could see is there is not very clear vision of what the scale could be. Like when we are trying to adopt, we have a problem statement and we have come to evolve an AI model. Till which extent it is going to merge into the department or integrate into the department also should realign what is in the traditional bureaucratic mode we have. Like for just in our case, if our e-surveillance is actually going to click and do upscaling where we have the entire forest area under surveillance, the traditional role of what a forest beat officer to a watcher is going to change. While that is not being thought of while we are implementing AI, and that is one of the reason why while adoption of technology will hit a deadlock. I think it happens in every department. If we are going to start an AI where the importance of a guy working in an office is reduced, that is not reoriented in the AI policy of any department. Like we don't have a, I believe many departments have it. Like if we are talking about forest department, if we see this is what this is what AI policy we need in our department, and this is where we want to go. When we want the technology to do certain things, we should be orienting our human resources to align with the same. Like we may need more of, like even in the department, we may need more of people who need new recruits who would understand AI, help us maintain it, infuse it. Not everything comes from the outside. A lot of times it has to come in-house. Like we used to have a lot of ministerial staff to draft us documents. Now we may need a lot of people to help us maintain the AI models or find out something else. And we also should accept, like we have lot of codes in forest department. Some of them have been developed by the British. We still use it in the same manner where we expect our guards to be on the duty for 24 days. Now, if you are infusing a lot of AI technology, including surveillance, their roles have to be reoriented and rechanged according to what we are going to put in. And that will ensure the transition problem is always going to be there. But in the longer run, if you want your AI to scale, the traditional human resource plan of a department has to get reoriented in accordance to what models we are going to keep and what do we expect our staff to do. I think that will be the biggest blocker. If we do not change our human resource plan of each department in accordance to our needs, they're going to block a lot of adoption and it is going to get slow. I think that's from my side.
So, thank you. I'll give a service provider's perspective on this. So all the government officials are here. So from our perspective, is the government's vision clear? Yes. Is there a genuine willingness to adopt AI? Yes. And there have been groundbreaking initiatives also. We were, in the last panel also, we were talking about initiatives like Bhashini, Sarvams, all of this has been built out in India with our sovereign infrastructure. So why do, as you said, 1 out of 10 see the light, all these pilots? So from our perspective, what we experience and the way we look at it is they fail or they slow down in the process of execution. So these use cases they don't actually convert into productions, right? Why is that? Let me give my perspective to it. As Sir said, the choosing of the right use case is one. You should have a quality data to put that into inference and get an output. Integration with the already existing systems is one, right? And what the outcome we get should be faster, better, and more accurate and more consistent for that matter. For that, you need a highly secure and an infrastructure which is very highly performance oriented at the right price, as somebody said, right? So this is all is required, and if anything out of all of these is missing, then these pilots do not actually remains pilot and do not convert into production. So this is exactly people like us, service providers like us, come into play and have a very important role where we provide an infrastructure which is compliant to all those DPDP acts, all the laws and regulations that the Government of India has laid out, and of course to provide that infrastructure which is very highly performance oriented at the right price. So if you talk about government, take for example India AI mission. So any government, the India AI mission solves this problem of high price of all these GPUs and infrastructure by giving subsidies, right? That is how the government is partnering into that. As far as L1 and GEM and RFPs are concerned, there are many other ways which has come from MIT, for example, via their NIC Meghraj 2.0 cloud, and STPI, where the whole process of creation of an RFP, evaluating bids, and then awarding a tender to the L1 or any other process. All of this is actually now a 6 or 8 months process now gets reduced to almost as low as 1 month. So from the cost perspective, I think government is doing a lot to subsidize that cost. Of course, these are very high value items purchased and manufactured out of India. But then from a service provider's perspective, we are providing the government of India an infrastructure which is highly compliant to whatever is laid down as regulations from that side. Sovereign infrastructure, data does not leave India at any cost, with a right price, which is actually being posted by the government of India. So that is where we look at it from a staller point of view. So basically, it is an execution with all those problems that we face, along with the skill, as sir said.
No, wonderful. I think the panelists have definitely covered the top 10 or the top 15 blockers that we have, all seen, ranging from people-related aspects which on change and mindset change, essentially the skilling part of it. From a technology lens around the architecture and the governance around it, I think all of you covered some of those aspects. And you spoke about procurement, but from both sides, right? From a service provider lens also we spoke, and also from the ministry, that procurement and making things available at the right price point becomes very, very important. I know the timer says the time is up. Maybe we'll take one or two questions from the audience. But before that, I think, the way I thought I'll conclude is essentially that, we have all seen in the last 1.5 years is when AI really started scaling up. I think it has been there for many years previously also, but it has gained momentum only now with infrastructure being available at a price point that makes amicable to scale at, the scale that we are looking at in Indian government. So that is very important. But at the same time, some of these blockers that we could address, the panelists have already covered. So maybe I'll take one or two questions from the audience if there are any, and we'll, happy to pick up that. Any questions from the audience? I think everyone is looking forward for the lunch. Yes, yes, absolutely. So I'll thank my panelists over here. Thank you for sharing your wonderful insights. I think some of you related a Netflix series, and the other one, when you spoke about tigers, I was thinking about, how do you track tigers who are coming out of jungles, I heard recently. So if there is a mechanism to do that as well. But thank you so much, all the panelists, for being here and sharing all your valuable insights. Thank you.